In a time when chivalry and romance flourished amidst the turmoil of the Crusades, there lived a maiden of ethereal beauty named Melusine, whose lineage was shrouded in enchanted mystery. Her origins trace back to a fateful encounter in the verdant forests of Alba, where her mother, the captivating Melusine, captured the heart of Elnes, the king of his noble realm. It was on a day when the sun's golden rays kissed the leaves of an ancient wood that Elnes, on a hunting expedition, chanced upon Melusine. A vision of grace and allure. Her enchanting presence ensnared his heart in an instant, and he fervently implored her to be his queen. Yet, Melusine, knowing the perilous nature of such unions between mortals and fey creatures, agreed only under the solemn condition that Elnes would never intrude upon her chamber during the sacred moments of childbirth and her bath. The king, enraptured by her beauty, swore the vow without hesitation, and so they were wed and their love blossomed, resulting in the birth of triplets, their daughters, Melusine, Melior, and Palatine. But alas, the promise made in the ardor of love was soon forgotten, and Elnes, in a moment of curiosity and recklessness, transgressed their sacred covenant. Upon discovering his indiscretion, Melusine was filled with sorrow and disappointment. She, along with her 3 daughters, left the kingdom behind, retreating to the enigmatic Isle of Avalon, where their destinies would forever be entwined with the mystical. On the triplets' 15th birthday, Melusine, the eldest of the 3, inquired of her mother the reason behind their secluded existence on the island. Learning of the treachery her father had committed, Melusine's heart burned with a desire for vengeance. Thus, together with her sister, she imprisoned her father Elnes within the very heart of a formidable mountain, ensuring an inescapable fate. But the mother, Melusine, upon learning of her daughter's actions, was filled with a righteous wrath. She chastised them for their cruelty, and in her anger imposed a peculiar curse upon Melusine alone. Each Saturday night, as the stars danced in the heavens, Melusine would undergo a transformation. From the waist down, her delicate form would morph into that of a serpentine creature, a potent reminder of her lineage and her father's betrayal.
You're listening to the Pithy Chronicle. History with a bite. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Erica, and we bring you history's dirtiest deeds, dripping with sarcasm.
Are you hungry yet?
Okay.
That was our starting point for today, Caroline.
I mean, I don't want to be half serpent.
It seems a particularly cruel fate. Why not just get him out of the mountain?
I like that he's still in the mountain.
He's still in the mountain.
I guess maybe mom can't undo the magic of daughters?
Maybe. We'll see. So, before we jump into the many fables and folklores surrounding Melusine and her family, let's do some housekeeping.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, for tuning in. If you could just give us a like, a subscribe, a review, it would really help us out. And this is the giving season, after all. Many of you tonight will either be receiving or giving out candy, so drop us a review at the same time. Give us a baby Ruth.
But it has to be a treat.
An almond joy.
There's no trick here.
Yeah, there's no trick on this one. We also want to thank our Patreons who are wonderfully supportive. If you are interested in supporting the podcast and finding extra material that we put up on our Patreon, please feel free to join. And then also we have a buy us a coffee at buyusacoffee.com/The Pithy Chronicle, where you can throw us a bone.
Or a buck.
Throw us a Milky Way.
'Tis the season.
All right, before my sugar high overtakes us, what are we talking about today, Erica?
Well, as you have probably guessed, there is more to the story. But to hear it, we have to look at sirens. So, Caroline, what do you know about sirens? Not the Paw Patrol sirens. I know you've got little kids.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so sirens were beautiful women whose voices entranced men on the ships and would draw them to their island where they would be eaten, chomp chomp, by the sirens.
I really don't want to
I'm not a
eat
praying mantis
anybody.
over here. I don't eat my spouse.
I just feel like it would be tough. I'm not into that.
I am not Army Hammer.
No.
What the hell is going on there?
I did watch the documentary, and it is so worth your freaking time.
Oh my gosh! I haven't seen it.
It was so wild.
So, are we discussing cannibalism today, Erica? Because along with incest, it's up there in Caroline's top 5.
No.
Oh.
Aside from the siren call of a good Starbucks in the morning, would you be shocked to know that they date back to antiquity, but were more in the form of a psychopomp, a la a woman's head and a bird body, or vice versa. It was not originally the serpent at the bottom.
I've never heard of a psychopomp.
Well, you're about to hear a little bit more.
I will be throwing that word into conversation.
Yes.
ASAP.
The 10th century Byzantine dictionary, the Suda.
Stop it. You found a Byzantine dictionary?
We've talked about the Suda before.
No, I don't remember.
Don't.
Byzantium is not my forte.
It's not mine either, but when you have a 10th century dictionary encyclopedia, you're gonna use it.
Yeah.
You're gonna use it. The Suda states that sirens had the form of sparrows from their chest up, and below they were women, or alternatively that they were little birds with women's faces, which is just creepy.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Yeah, wondering what your last minute costume should be? Just put on all the feathers in your wardrobe and be a psychopomp.
I do need a costume. A psychopomp.
Mm-hmm. I could have some fun with that.
Literally, I think I'm going to do it. Because I already have a peacock costume.
Fabulous.
So I can just retrofit.
Even prior to that, though, we have the Roman historian Pliny the Elder, who wrote in the 1st century AD, and he stated that there had been numerous sightings of mermaids along the coast of Gaul. So similar mythology, different location, and it's important to note that, of course, Gaul kind of becomes France, and this is a French fairy tale, largely.
Very, very largely.
Yeah. In Ottoman Greece, a legend about Thessaloniki, Alexander the Great's sister, began to emerge, and this one is fascinating.
I just like her name.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the island.
Yeah. It makes me think of Nike of the Samothrace.
Mm-hmm.
Winged Victory.
It's also in the Bible. There's 1st Thessalonians and 2nd Thessalonians.
You know I didn't know that.
Paul wrote that.
Thank you.
According to the story, Thessaloniki did not die, but rather transformed into a mermaid at the moment of her death, and she lived in the Aegean Sea. Legend has it that the mermaid would ask each ship she encountered, "Is King Alexander alive?"
I like how you've included the Greek translation just in case I needed that. I didn't, but I really appreciate the thought.
Well, don't look, but do you know the answer? Is King Alexander alive?
Unless he's gotten sick.
I guess.
Yes.
So the correct answer is,
he does get sick.
Quote, "He lives and reigns and conquers the world," unquote. And satisfied with the answer, it's said that Thessaloniki would calm any rough waters and wish the ship a safe journey. But any other answer, so if you answered honestly, Thessaloniki would stir up a tremendous storm and would wreck the ship and kill the crew. And maybe she ate them too, who knows?
Oh, goodness. Did the crew personally murder Alexander the Great? I was unaware of that fate.
Didn't he just get a fever or something?
Yeah, he did.
He died very normally.
Talk about shooting the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
For all of our Navy friends, if you do see Thessaloniki, Alexander is alive. He's still conquering the world.
He lives and reigns and conquers the world. Which Erica also kindly gave me the Greek translation for.
You know, just in case.
Oh, Jesus.
Sirens and psychopomps even show up in hell. At one point, during his ascent of Mount Purgatory, Dante's protagonist of the Divina Commedia is lured by a siren in a dream. And it does not have a hybrid body, but appears as a beautiful woman, fully human and singing. poet describes how the woman's decaying features turn beautiful as the pilgrim gazes upon her, so kind of like a backward zombie.
Benjamin Button style.
Yeah, and she starts to sing her melody. Fortunately, Dante is saved from the siren's charms by Beatrice, who rips the siren's clothes to reveal a horrible stench from her body, breaking the captivating spell.
Okay, first of all, clothing that keeps in a smell needs to be sold on Amazon.
Should have been happening by now.
We should be figuring this out. Secondly, what the heck does any of this have to do with the Crusade?
So if we just
I don't even know where to begin. What is happening?
So if we just looked at the mythology, nothing really.
Oh,
but
okay.
Let's dig into the history and the royal houses that claim descent from Melusine and perhaps some of her real-life counterparts.
Oh, okay. All right, bring it on.
First, we come to Raymond of Poitou, out hunting with his father, stayed the night by a campfire, which drew the attention of a wild boar, and as we know, those boars and those hunting trips cause problems. So, in killing the boar, Raymond's sword glanced off its hide, whoopsie-daisy, and struck down his father, the big lord. Panicking, Raymond fled into the forest where he came to a glade with a pond and 3 beautiful maidens. And upon hearing Raymond's predicament, oh darn, one of the maidens, Melusine, calmed him, saying that anyone finding his father's body would now only deduce that he'd been slain by the boar the same moment he'd ended the boar's life. Don't worry, dude. You killed your dad, but it's fine.
Melusine is here, so all better.
Yeah, this is very Lady Macbeth-ish. You just killed somebody, no problem.
Well, she's not very attached to fathers.
That is true. Irrevocably losing his heart to Melusine, Raymond proposes, and Melusine, of course, accepts, along with her condition that he request from his kin so much ground as could be covered by a stag's hide near the pond.
That's very weird.
Really weird. Gross, but whatever. So this granted, and cutting the hide into threads, Melusine gained a large portion of land upon which they could build her castle. And upon its completion, she named it after herself, Lucinia, which is a name that has since evolved into Lusignan.
Another name I've never heard of.
How have you never heard of this name? This was a huge thing for the Angevin Empire because John stole away Isabella of Angoulême from the Lusignans. And she was so young and was such a child's bride that whenever John fell, she was engaged initially to the father and ended up marrying the son because she was like, he's actually my age.
I'm drawing a blank.
None of this rings a bell for
But
you?
I'm enjoying... Okay. But... continue.
But you're enjoying the drama?
I am luxuriating in the drama, Erica.
That's the Lusignans. The tale then recalls the couple had several sons, all ugly or deformed in some manner, and that's a quote, that's not me. I'm not being a meanie. They were not beauties to behold, according to the chroniclers. Not me.
Whoa.
One even entered a monastery. I don't know what that
I guess that means it was
his appearance.
so bad. He just
it was
had
so
to
bad,
be put
only
away.
God would love him.
Oh,
God, that's terrible. So then one Saturday, of course, Raymond's father inquired after the absence of his daughter-in-law at the dinner table. And Raymond told him that she was not available for company on Saturdays, which prompted Raymond's father to tell him that, well, dude, she's obviously hitting it on the side with somebody.
You're being cuckolded.
Yeah, and this set up on Raymond's mind until he was like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta see what she's doing. And he crept into his wife's chambers on a Saturday to peek through the keyhole of a locked door. There he saw his wife in a bath, and then dismay gripped him when he saw that below the waist, she bore the tail of a monstrous fish.
I thought she was supposed to be a snake.
In this version.
Okay, maybe it's like an eel. We're going eel.
You're going
middle of the road. Okay, I'm going.
I'm just Little Mermaiding it this whole time.
Okay.
Raymond held his peace, and it wasn't until their son Joffrey, with the big tooth, not a joke, There are some names in this episode.
Joffrey with the big tooth.
Yeah. Some of it says Joffrey with the great tooth.
Nope, the big tooth is better.
Big tooth is better. So he attacked and killed all the occupants of the monastery where his own brother, Frymond, resided.
Why?
I don't know. It doesn't tell me. So
unprompted.
Yeah.
Jackass.
Upon hearing this news, Raymond declared to his wife as she approached him to, she's trying to comfort him, be like, sorry, our kid's a murderer. Whoopsie daisy. And he says, away, odious serpent, contaminator of my honorable race, unquote. And then Melusine cries, oh, husband. And knowing her time with him was over, says, I leave you 2 little ones in their cradle. Look after them for me. She kisses the Lord one last time and flew out the window, never to return.
She flies?
She flies.
She swims, she flies. I'm sure she crawls.
Long was it believed that the unfortunate Melusine appeared in air wailing over the ramparts of Lusignan Castle, heralding the death of one of its lords. On the extinction of the family, she would then appear dressed in mourning and uttering the most heart-rending lamentations whenever a king of France was to depart his life. In 1387, Jean d'Arras, secretary to the Duc de Berry, was given orders to collect all attainable information with reference to this Melusine.
Oh,
he did, making a considerable use of the history written by, quote, one of the race of Lusignan. Jean d'Arras related that Serville, who defended Lusignan for the English against the Duc de Berry, swore that the prince, on his faith and honor, quote, that 3 days before the surrender of the castle, there entered into his chamber, though the doors were shut, a large serpent, enameled, blue and white, which struck its tail several times against the foot of the bed. Serville reported his fright, though beside him his wife appeared totally unafraid. And the serpent changed into a woman and asked of him, how is it that you have seen many battles and sieges and are afraid? Know you that I am mistress of this castle, which I erected, and soon you will surrender it. And then she resumed her serpentine shape and slithered away at a frightening speed.
That's a haunting if I ever heard one.
If a snake thumped its tail on my bed,
thump,
we'd have problems.
You'd have problems.
I'd have problems. I guess you too far away.
No, I'm not there.
No, you're not there. This writing of Jean d'Arras became so popular that soon many houses of Europe were trying to link their own ancestry to that of Melusine.
I'm sorry. People were like, me too, related to the fish, bird, snake woman.
Yeah. Apparently,
okay.
His book, The Spinner's Gospel,
weird choice,
a set of tales told by women spinning, had many editions in the 15th and 16th century, and today there's still a version available written by Jean d'Arras, Melusine, The Noble History of Lusignan.
Cool.
This version of events talks most thoroughly about one of her sisters, Palatine, and she was condemned to guard her father's treasure on this mountaintop where he was entombed with a bear and a snake with one eye.
What happened to the other one?
Oh, we're getting there. Only a knight of her father's kin could save her, and many tried and failed.
Wait, Palatine is stuck up there? Condemned meaning
Yeah.
Who condemned her?
Prasine. The mom.
What is with this mother?
You'd think if you left him and then your daughters got revenge on him.
No, and then your daughters took your side. Most people who get divorced want children to be this thorough in their decision.
If this were to be me and my daughter would to punish my husband in some unspeakable way, I wouldn't condemn her to a mountain.
Probs not.
Many tried to get up to Palatine and failed. One day, a knight of incorrect lineage, so he wasn't a relative, essentially, sought the treasure and Palatine. The knight climbed the mountain and killed many serpents, and the knight killed the bear. He entered the cave with the one-eyed serpent, which there are a lot of euphemisms there. No knight had ever reached the cave, and the serpent swallowed him whole, for he was not of Elness's lineage.
Ouch.
Joffrey with the Great Tooth, however, planned to climb the mountain, but he just waited too long and died of sickness. But he would have saved her if he would have actually made it up the mountain because he was a relative.
He probably could have used his tooth to slay the one.
Yeah, the one-eyed. I would definitely say teeth would slay a one-eyed snake.
There's so many euphemisms.
Anyway.
Happy Halloween!
Melior was condemned to keep a sparrowhawk in a castle in Armenia until she was rescued. That's the third sister.
Oh my gosh.
But that's really all we get from her.
So I guess nobody bothered to go to Armenia and rescue her.
No. Our next legend begins with the early Count of Anjou, which we know plenty about the Counts of Anjou. They were the progenitors of the Plantagenet line, which had a ton of kings, and the Angevins.
Here they are.
The legend began with the early Count of Anjou. He was a man of great stature and wealth. He was said to have ventured into foreign lands on crusade, and his heart captured...
we finally got there.
Yeah. And his heart captured by the ethereal beauty of a mysterious woman who had arrived from lands unknown, the Holy Lands. Their love blossomed swiftly, and they were married, sealing their union with whispered vows and secret trysts and all that wonderful stuff.
How Romeo and Juliet.
However, the Count soon discovered that his enigmatic bride harbored an unsettling secret. She was known to attend the church sporadically, and whenever she did, she would abruptly depart in the midst of the Mass, leaving the congregation in a state of bafflement. Like, why are you going to leave right before you get the Eucharist?
Like, aren't you hungry?
Her husband's concern grew with each occasion, and he became consumed by the notion that his wife was not of this world.
Because she left Mass?
Well, she didn't want to take the body and the blood of Christ, so obviously she doesn't...
All right.
If you don't want the body and the blood of Christ, you don't want your soul to then enter into eternal paradise in heaven, therefore you must not have a soul. I'm not saying it's sound logic.
That's valid. It's not sound at all, but you can get there.
In an act of desperation, the Count ordered 4 of his burliest men to restrain his wife as she rose to leave the church. The congregation watched in horrid fascination as the men grappled with the beautiful woman, but their efforts were in vain. With an otherworldly strength, she broke free, her eyes gleaming with an unholy light. And then, in a sight that would haunt the memories of those present, she did the impossible.
What?
In full view of the churchgoers, the woman defied the laws of nature and the realms of the divine. She ascended to the highest window of the church, and with her 2 youngest sons cradled in her arms, she took flight. Her wings, diaphanous and dark in the deepest night, unfurled as she soared into the heavens.
Damn! I want some diaphanous and dark wings.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that he got from point A to point Z, because he was clearly right.
I mean...
That ain't normal.
So the Count and the congregation were left in stunned silence
As are we.
As the Countess and her sons disappeared into the night.
Oh, she took them with her!
Yeah, leaving behind nothing but a lingering chill and an unsettling sense of foreboding.
Dun dun dun.
The remaining son, because remember they had 3 in every iteration
it's
of
all about
of
the
stories. The last remaining son, it was said to be the ancestor of the later Counts of Anjou, and their troubled nature was believed to be a dark legacy of their demonic lineage. Yeah. Richard the Lionheart would often say, "From the devil I came, and to the devil I shall return." And then there was another Count of Flanders who was said to become enraged and kill things and be evil only when he set foot in France or in Anjou. I've read this week a lot about the lying in period and respecting gender roles and privacy of marital relations, but I have not seen a single discussion about cultural sensitivity and understanding, and I think the rise of this idea of a serpent or demonic fey entity that was brought back to an unfamiliar land with unfamiliar customs is a clear message that you shouldn't be marrying women on crusade. Because in the cases of the Anjou and the Lusignan, the men are alleged to be talking about were crusaders who married women while they were on crusade.
So were they marrying women of the Islamic faith, or were they...
So let's actually look at some real-life options to answer that.
Options?
You have options.
Our tender choices.
Tender choices, yeah.
All right, Erica, let's make the perfect match.
Fulk the Black.
Option number 1.
Married Elizabeth of Vendôme. So obviously she is not from the Holy Land. This is just a regular old white French chick.
A dime a dozen.
Elizabeth's death was recounted in the Chronicles of Saint-Florent, and Elizabeth occupied the citadel at Angers with some supporters while under siege from her husband Fulk, and she fell from a great height and then was burnt at the stake for adultery.
But I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. I guess I should tell you before we get into these, we're not going to go very in-depth because I think that at least some of the later ones, like Melusine of Jerusalem and Sibylla of Jerusalem, we're going to cover later.
Okay.
But Fulk was one of the ones that was allegedly the Count of Anjou who married Melusine, and I think that it's pretty interesting that there's allegedly this woman flying around.
She fell from a great height, and then she was burned at the stake. Yeah. Very witchy.
Very witchy for adultery. Allegedly, she had this affair, and then you can hear this horrible, deathly crying as she falls from a great height. You can see the correlations there.
I see the correlation, yeah.
So then, we have Fulk's son, Fulk the Fourth, Fulk le Rechine, which is Fulk the Chin, or Fulk the Jaw, or Fulk the Mouth. It just kind of depends.
The great tooth, the great jaw.
Yeah.
Woo.
Most scandalously, he was said to have married Bertrade, daughter of Simon I, the Lord of Montfort, in 1089, and he extorted soon-to-be king Robert Curthose for support of the marriage in exchange for assistance with a rebel in Manqueux, which ultimately required Robert to restore the lands of, not a lie, Ralph the Asshead to Bertrade's guardian William of Evreux. Bertrade bore him Fulk V, who later became Count of Anjou, king of the Crusader realm of Jerusalem.
Ah.
And so before 1092, when she either abandoned Fulk in favor of King Philip or was abducted by the king, accounts vary.
Both are excellent.
Yeah, apparently, bigamously, she married the king and became the Queen of France in 1092. She was said to have fully reconciled Fulk with the king and the situation in Orderic Vitalis' ecclesiastical history of the era. He claims Bertrade was anxious that one of her sons would succeed Philip, claiming she sought to kill his first son, Louis, through sorcery and poison, and even wrote to Henry I of England, asking him to arrest her stepson. And upon Philip's death in 1108, Louis did succeed him, and Bertrade became a nun at Fontevraud Abbey, and she founded a daughter house. If you go back to our Holy Roman sex scandal, this is the same Fulk and Philip who were in the Council of Piacenza. Philip is the one who called his wife a horseface and wanted to marry Bertrade, and Fulk was like fine with it because he's like, I've had 5 wives, I'll take another one.
He'd had 5 wives?
Yeah.
Is this a true account?
Yes.
In terms of... This really happened?
This really happened.
The King of France was a bigamist.
He was a bigamist because he put away his wife, who he called a horseface.
Well, fair enough.
And Fulk was like, yeah, whatever, I've already got my heir out of her. It's fine.
Take her.
Yeah.
Holy women of the Crusades. Ish.
Now we have the remaining 2 ladies, which I think are the most interesting, but we will get the least information on.
Why?
They're gonna have their own episodes. They are that interesting.
Okay, that sounds good.
Melusine of Jerusalem. She was the daughter of Baldwin II, King of Jerusalem, and Morphia of Melitene, an Armenian princess.
Ooh.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
It does.
The Armenian and the
Armenian
sparrowhawk thing.
By the way, we were flapping our wings aggressively just there. You all missed it.
Because neither of us could get sparrow or hawk out. Now that's a mom brain
You know,
moment.
the thing with the wings. Flap, flap, flap. Melusine of Jerusalem.
So she actually ruled Sojourner, Jerusalem, and was married to Fulk V, the son of the one who was like, hey, yeah, I don't care if my wife goes and marries you because you had a horse-faced wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all want to talk about family drama? And then we have Sibylla of Jerusalem, who was also Queen of Jerusalem and married Guy de Lusignan.
Ah, the Lusignan.
But I can't tell you everything now. What I will say is both of these women, Melusine and Sibylla, will have their stories told soon enough, and we will learn what they were crusading for.
That's it?
Yeah.
Rude!
I know, I'm sorry. But
You don't look sorry.
this is one of the most propagated folk tales and mythology during the Crusades. And I'm sorry, I just don't think it was that big of a deal, men wanting to come into the birthing room. I don't think men wanted to do that.
I don't think they did at the time. That's a very modern...
Yeah, I think the story has much more to do about not understanding cultural differences, even if that culture was maybe not necessarily Muslims and their Islamic beliefs.
Or Armenian.
Or Armenians, because
yeah.
during the Crusades, they were not just killing Muslims, they were killing Armenian Christians, they were killing Greek Orthodox Christians, and they were killing Jews.
And they didn't have any kind of a travel guidebook to tell them about the cultures that they were going to encounter along the way. They had no idea that people of the same faith might have a very different culture and a very different set of standards. And that is something that today we are very aware of.
Are we?
But back then, my way or the highway, well, we're supposed to be.
We're technically better, I guess. It is a fraught time.
It has been on my mind that we are discussing Jerusalem so much this season.
Yes.
With all of the just awful happenings going on in the Middle East right now. And I guess on this Halloween day, we would like to say that we are thinking of all of the people that are suffering right now. And Jerusalem has been such a fraught area for such a long time.
And my God, why? It's not even a port city. Like...
That's true.
Not to make light of it, because it is a very serious deal, it is a very big deal, but it just goes to show that symbols, whether or not it is a religious story you tell or a mythological story you tell, stories and histories and symbols have meanings that people are willing to lay down their lives for. So when you are out celebrating this used to be pagan holiday, it's important to remember that the things you do and the things you teach and what you embody makes a difference.
And that, my friends, is that. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Erica, and we are Pithily Yours.
This episode is brought to you by the Pithy Chronicle, LLC. The Pithy Chronicle is intended for education, entertainment, and non-commercial purposes. Any views or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the owner may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity. While we offer lots of sarcasm, this podcast does not offer any advice or services. Listening to this podcast may induce fits of laughter, unexpected distraction, or uncontrollable rage at the subjects, hopefully not at us. We hope you learned something today. If not, so sorry. Please be advised we are not experts in the following fields: medical, legal, financial, technological, thermonuclear engineering, submarine warfare, neuroscience, or cat husbandry. Thanks for listening to our little disclaimer. Just covering our history-loving asses. Bye!